All right, guys, so we just did this part in class on top, so you can scooch to the bottom here. Let's talk about this. So a rational expression is a fraction whose numerator and denominators are polynomials. And to simplify a rational expression, we take the following steps. We try to factor if possible. And then we reduce and cancel any common factors. All right, so turn the page. Today's going to be tough because you're going to have to remember the 3 types of factoring. So factoring type 1 was GCF. If all the terms have a common factor, you pull out the GCF and then go from there. So why don't we do that first here? With GCF is going to be number 1 and 2. So what is the GCF of the numerator? What can you guys take out, divide out of both? I hope you guys are thinking a 2 and an x. And now let's actually do it. If you divide both of these by 2x, what are you left with inside? Well, it's 1x minus 3. Okay? And then this one, there's nothing to do, so I'm just going to recopy it. Now, based on what we did in the warm-up, what cancels? And I hope you guys are saying that these 2 x's will cancel. And then the final answer is just whatever's left over, x minus 3. Okay, so that's how you reduce by GCF. All right, let's try one more of those, number 2. X plus 5 on top, there's nothing to do, so I'm going to recopy it. But in the denominator, these guys have something in common. We can divide out a 1x. And then if you divide both of these by 1x, what's left? And it's 1x plus 5. Okay, what cancels? The x plus 5 and the x plus 5. And then whatever's left is your final answer. Now, something that people get wrong, be careful. The x is actually in the denominator. So that means that nothing's left in top, so you put a 1. So this is 1 over x. All right, moving on. MA table. If there's ever a trinomial with no GCF, you have to factor by MA table. These are, I think, the hardest ones. Okay, so let's look at number 3. For number 3, the x minus 2 is going to stay, but this guy we have to factor. And remember to do that, we made an MA. Oh, wait, how did I do? Did I do it this way with you guys? With the crisscross? I don't remember. We got to find 2 numbers that add to the middle, -1, but multiply to the product of the first and last, which is -2. Okay, so what are those 2 numbers that multiply to -2 but add to -1? And that's going to be -2 and 1. Okay, and then remember, we give them both an x, and we plug them in to replace the middle term. Okay, so it's 1x squared minus 2x plus 1x minus 2, and then we factor by grouping. I know these are a lot of steps. And now, with each pair, we pull out the GCF. So these guys, we can divide out an x. And if you divide out an x, you're left with x minus 2. These guys, we can only divide out a 1. And if you divide by 1, you're also left with x minus 2. And now we're good to go. So the factored form, remember, since they both have an x minus 2, that comes out. And the second parenthesis is what's left over, x plus 1. Okay, what cancels? These these entire ones cancel. So the final answer, well, the x plus 1 is in the denominator, and if there's nothing up here, you always put a 1. That's the answer. Okay, let's try one more of those. Okay, so on this one, this guy we're going to have to do an MA table and factor by grouping. Okay, so guys, let's find two numbers that add to 8, multiply to 7. And that's going to be 7 and 1. All right, and don't forget we have to give them both x's, and we're going to plug them in to the middle term. Okay, so it's x squared plus 7x plus 1x plus 7. You know, I probably should have switched the order here, but it doesn't matter. These guys we can divide out an x, and you're left with x plus 7. These guys you can divide out a 1, and you're left with x plus 7. Okay, so we're ready to do it. They both have an x plus 7, so we pull that out. And the second parenthesis is the x plus 1. And then this one was just an x plus 1 with nothing to do. Okay, so what cancels? The x plus 1's cancel, and whatever's left is your answer, and it's x plus 7. And that's on top, so we don't need a 1. All right, last one is the difference of squares, and this one's easier to make up for that last one. I just realized that this one has a typo. This should be a 3. Can you guys fix that? That should be a 3. So in the numerator, there's nothing to do, but in the denominator, remember the ones that are, if they're both perfect squares and you square root them, so the square root of 9 is 3, right? So then it's x plus 3, x minus 3. That's the difference of two squares. And then these cancel. And then your final answer is what's left. There's an x plus 3 in the denominator, so we just put a 1 in the numerator. Okay, last one, guys, number 6. Y plus 4, there's nothing to do. But y squared minus 16 is the difference of two squares. All right, so it's y, and then the square root of 16 is 4 and 4, and remember, one's plus and one's minus. Difference of squares. And then these cancel, and then whatever's left is your final answer. So the y minus 4 is in the denominator. Since nothing's left, we put a 1. So it's 1 over y minus 4. All right, nice job, guys. That was a tough one. This is called simplifying rational expressions.